things on top of hitting the removal spells exactly when you need them. And a lot of the time, the Mage also needs to generate some very fortunate outcomes from the Font of Power.
Exactly. I think that Druid, when you're learning, you very much suffer from the memes, I suppose, that come with Token Druid, where people are like, haha, fine gibbling and then you'll win, which is kind of true, but if you just play out your gibbling, even if it's on like turn 2 or 3 and you make 4 gibblings, often that's enough for a lot of decks to clean up, and you want to wait for, as you said, these huge swing turns where you make 7 minions, buff them all up at the same time if you can, and then it's difficult for any deck to be able to clear them off. But for che0nsu here, even though he's on the play, I do still think I like the keeping of the Glowfly Swarm, because you're fairly likely to hit card draw, and it is just, as you said, that way to blow Mage out of the game.
Absolutely. For DawN, the keep was a single Primordial Studies, which I am in favor of, because I do find that the way Druid tends to overtake this matchup is by just taking advantage of the fact that Mage does nothing in the early game to just draw, and then Mage sometimes gets stuck with Combustion in their hand, which they want to use on just Thorngrowth Sentries. But okay, che0nsu's just going to go ahead and play it on its own here, because he does still have enough of spell synergy to get the full Glowfly. Although, honestly, I don't feel like it's that good, especially after having seen a Studies and a minion that can potentially challenge it.
Do you think he should have just hero powered on that turn and saved it for another Glowfly?
Potentially. I don't play enough of the Druid, but okay, this Innervate makes things very spicy because it can be the Glowfly next turn. However, he knows this is the one natural spell in DawN's, Secret in DawN's deck, so that is going to proc, and the sentries are just going to get eaten up by this minion presence.
Whoa. Doesn't even feel like che0nsu's going to care especially much, because while maybe the Scourge of Battlegrounds, I guess from what I hear on Twitter, I don't really know what everyone's complaining about. It's perfectly fine here in Constructed. You're happy to see a 4-mana 4/3.
And for DawN, while this does look like an opportunity to clear with Ruined Orb, I think you should prioritize card draw, because after having seen a Fungal, you kind of know something's up, whether it's going to be Innervate Glowfly or Glowfly the next turn. He will have to have hit something of more substance. To be fair, this deck from DawN is not running the Shooting Star, which a lot of players other than DawN have opted for. So maybe he's thinking there's not that much off the top of his deck that he can get that's good against Glowfly anyway. But if you're going to discover an additional Combustion, then I'm all for it, DawN.
Yeah, I mean, you also just get another minion on board, which I think is a pretty key part of this turn, because while they may have Lunar Eclipse, on this turn, it's very unlikely they'll be able to deal with both of the minions that you throw down, so I would just like to see the Kobold Geomancer come down here for DawN, even if it could die and you lose the Combustion spell damage effect.
Yep. Except the Lab Partner for the second one, which I completely agree with. And honestly, Lab Partner is just better statted than the Kobold, which makes it sad that the Kobold costs 2. But for che0nsu here, the problem with this stand is that beyond the Glowfly Swarm, he doesn't have the back-breaking follow-up of Arbor Up or Pride's Fury. He's also not running the Soul of the Forest in his primary, which is a bit of an unusual pick, but maybe not going to hurt him too much against Mage.
And so that's why I think I like just chilling on this turn. If you can find yourself Pride's Fury or Arbor Up, as you said, as the 2 key cards, you could play them with the Glowfly Swarm next turn, with double Lightning Bloom as well. It doesn't even feel like you need to go for Glowfly here. I don't know if I'm overcomplicating things.
It's close, right? On turn 4, before Mage has played any Encounters, though, you can generally expect that they're not going to develop very hard. But because he picked up exactly this Pounce with a full board of Glowflies, I think this is still a good enough turn for che0nsu, because even a single Combustion here doesn't clear that much of the board.
Okay, nice draw. Less nice draws.
Yes. Mask is something to think about as a turn to aim for DawN. Like, if you can survive till the Mask turn, you often feel like you can get there against Token Druid. Of course, there are certain boards they build that don't beat the Mask, but it's kind of like your backup Flame Strike in this matchup. So DawN's only option at this point is to clear, because there is so much potential for additional burst from che0nsu that I don't think he has the window to go for a card draw necessarily anymore.
Now the downside does kind of come into play for che0nsu because he doesn't have that immediate buff effect. He does have Innovate Adorable Infestation, which you kind of expect to see on this turn, just to take out the lab partner more cleanly. And he can still fit in the card draw, importantly, too.
It's a 1-drop from the first of Guess the Weight, which you're always just happy to see not 2 because it's easier to guess. But Pride's Fury off the top looks very, very powerful. So it looks like it's going to be both the Adorable Infestations get the maximum minion presence online right now.
Yeah.
This is an Apexis Blast turn, ideally for Mage, which is, it makes sense to go wide.
Exactly. Again, you've ticked off the vast majority of things you're afraid of. They clearly don't have Brain Freeze, or they would have played it instead of the lab partner. They've played, obviously, the Combustion. They don't run Shooting Star. They've played 1 Rune Orb already. There's basically nothing that can clear your board that they're likely to have in hand.
And this is now very problematic for DawN. Of course, that first Combustion was discovered, so there's potential to get another one. Problem is, without any Incanter's Flow, even if he draws it off of AI, he won't be able to play it. I still think it's AI over Cram Session, though, because you can still play Brain Freeze, for example, if you draw that. And he just needs to get as many chances to Flame Strike as possible, as far as I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going for the chance to pick up exactly Combustion, is what I think, if he spends only 2 mana on the draw. But probably not going to be good enough.
So he just goes with Ping, and you can't use the Devolving here, right? Because
Don't think so.
So afraid of... I mean, the argument could be that if they have Pride's Fury or Arbor up, you're just dead anyway, which honestly is kind of reasonable, I think, at this point.
I mean, you're dead even if you Devolving that, I'm pretty sure, and then you don't have the Devolving.
Yeah.
Super close.
Well, either way, the payoff is there for che0nsu. The Pride's Fury, mwah, the absolute dream. I'm a little surprised to see the Gibberling come down on this turn, because I thought that the Mars Souls could be used, and potentially Gibberling could then be another board refill in case everything went wrong.
Me too. I think Gibberling was his backup plan, especially because he could have just held on to the nature studies and done that the next turn. But all right, che0nsu is going all in right now. To be fair, this is pre-Flame Strike turn, so he's just trying to set up the immediate lethal. And even though I think the Marcel turn could have done basically the same job, I think che0nsu is just smelling blood.
All right, Varden's come in. He's come in clutch once today. Oh, sorry, can they come in again?
It really has to be the Varden. That's the only out for DawN. Because if he AIs, even if he hits Combustion or double Brain Freeze, there's far too much damage left on the board. That is not it.
Can Trick Totem even get anything anymore? There's no Frost Nova in the game.
Lightning Storm is not enough.
Yeah.
Even though it's guaranteed to deal 3 now, it is far too little for this situation.
Yeah, I'm honestly struggling to think of any 3-mana spell in the game that can do it. And Nature Studies is not it. Even if it got him Incanter's Flow. That is hilarious. That's 2 ways
Irony.
now that we have seen Trick Totem into Incanto. Didn't Frenetic get it in EU directly, and now in APAC we do it the side route of getting it off of the Nature Studies to even get a mana discount as well. That's pretty hilarious.
The true name of that card is Troll Totem, and we all know it. Yeah, for that matchup in particular, it seemed like we had a lot of disagreements on both sides about how to play it, but it turns out like when the Mage isn't necessarily going for turbo card draw, that might be a signal for Druid to not play as greedy as I was initially recommending.
Yeah.
Because that means that Mages just using up all their resources, so the Druid can be a little bit willy-nilly with their resources as well. But it all comes down to still whether or not the first Glowfly can be answered, because that's just the first checkpoint in the matchup. Even if the Mage does, like, say, run Shooting Star and have the answer for that, what I was saying about being greedy for Druid only really matters if they have that first answer.
Exactly, and the alternate plays that I was recommending that che0nsu should take, in a way, were actually just, they were reliant on the same things. Because I was saying you could delay the Glowfly, draw on turn 4, and then hope to get the buffs to go with the Glowfly all in one turn. He was basically just going about it the other way, saying, I'll Glowfly now, and I pray that I get the buffs off the top. And either way, if you don't hit Pride Sphere or Arbor up, you were kind of looking in trouble. And che0nsu realized that it was unlikely that his opponent would be able to clear off enough. It was a educated guess and turned out to be correct. And so we're heading to game 2 now. Gia potentially going to be going with our second win before the hour is even up here in our second series of the day in Grandmasters. But DawN does finally have a hand that can actually fight back now.
And I do recommend for this type of hand, Coin Flow for sure, because the card you draw off the top, if it's Flame Strike or Mask, you will definitely would have rather played Flow, and he has a way to spend his mana on this turn 2, which means that there's almost no downside to coining Flow. He doesn't have any hand currently that he would want to coin into a turn sooner. Hoo-hoo, Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix does feel soon enough, right? It's often too slow in the Druid mirror, but it's timed pretty nicely. It will go into their turn 4, which very often is the pop-off turn when they innovate out a Glowfly.
Yes, very true. Worth noting that DawN doesn't have an additional list that's meant for Druid. He has tech for Mage, for Priest. And I think Weapon Rogue, there's an Ooze list in here, which the lack of Shooting Star in the primary will be very painful in this matchup. But, these are really good options.
You say
The
huge.
2 on either side, yeah.
And a Raz as well? Like, I don't even know what you go for here. It's probably Devolving, just because I think Cone is too expensive. Like, when the Phoenix wakes up, you have Combustion anyway, right?
Yes, I agree, and so does DawN. It just so happens that DawN has plenty of mana to spend on on his things here, and he just kind of wants a bit more flexibility. The Devolving gives him that, but it doesn't change the fact that this first board is still going to survive a single combustion, even with the spell damage.
che0nsu is just lucky he went for it this turn and not next turn with the Raz, or he would be out of here.
So, I might be going crazy, but this looks like an Apexis turn to me because che0nsu has overloaded by going Lightning Bloom into Glowfly and not Innervate.
That's
which
true.
Which means that you can potentially get away with a bit more damage here and set up for a bigger clear the next turn, either with Combustion plus a minion off the top or just Raz.
That is some spicy deduction. I like where your head's at. And it's true.
A Gibberling! 2 Gibberlings! Hello?
And an
Now he
attendant.
has the combust.
Those are sick. What do you even combust, though? Do you, like...
He VTs one and then he combusts the other Gibberling, I guess.
Yuck.
It's super yucky. And obviously DawN has been playing very safe throughout the day, which is... throughout this matchup, which is to be expected. Mage does have to play defense, but it feels like they need to get a really big swing in order to come back, because you have to decide whether you're playing around the big buff or you're playing around board refill. And Druid's gonna have one of those at some point. And it feels like if you go for a partial board clear, both of those things get punished by not going for a bigger risk.
4 minions feels like it's at the point where it's better to go for Power of the Wild for buff, even factoring in when you have Pride Fury next turn for an extra minion. I think I would just rather have more attack now, more survivability on this board as well.
Agreed. So if DawN has a spend your mana gamer, he can play the Firework Elemental actually to just get rid of the 3/3. That would corrupt the Ring Toss, which is, I would say, partially relevant. It just depends on whether you think the minion off of Apexis Blast you get is going to be better than a 3/5 on average, which I actually do not know.
I mean, it just depends how dire of a situation you think you're in. Is your out to hit Earth Elemental here, or something with Rush? Maybe.
Maybe. Oh,
Raz?
Okay. So that is a must clear for che0nsu's sake.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it is clearable. And it looks like che0nsu has indeed switched to his Soul of the Forest list, which means the guidances are gone.
Well, you have to differentiate, because his secondary has 1 guidance for 1 soul. His tertiary has 2 guidance for 2 soul.
Oh.
And it is his secondary. He thinks 1 and 1 is the correct balance to strike.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in this man's mind, I'll be honest. But certainly, Pride's Fury has to be among the things he is considering. Would still have to take 2 trades to get rid of Raz.
Yeah, he's 1 mana off getting the Pride's Fury and the Power of the Wild in as well, which is a little annoying. But not the end of the world.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Soul instead of the Pride's Fury. And leave up Raz? Okay, I don't think that's the game.
Never. Never.
No way. Okay. Okay. With the trade, I do think the Soul is a very disciplined play as well. This is also playing into what I was saying about being a little bit greedier and setting up a board that is not necessarily better against Combustion, but better against Flame Strike, which is playable for DawN if it had come post Incanter's Flow.
I wonder.
And, well, the real question here is Raz good enough? Because it actually ups the amount of attack on your opponent's board, really annoyingly. But it does at least make it so Flame Strike next turn possibly gets the clear, even when you factor in the Pride's Fury, if that is what you're afraid of. Obviously, if Arbor Up comes down, you're just dead on the spot. But you need to start taking risks here. I don't think Raz is out of the question.
I think DawN needs to go for card draw, which even feels more risky, but this is now the shape of board that che0nsu has made that Combustion's actually pretty okay, because he can kill the 2/2/2s in the middle and just regenerate 1/2/2, so he can narrow che0nsu's board without necessarily dying. But he hasn't hit Combustion. Now I think he just takes the cheapest spell damage and keeps drawing.
Yeah, I mean, if you play Mini-Mage Cram Session, you can't even hit the Combustion anymore, so you have to go AI instead. And he misses.
Yeah.
Yikes.
A disaster. che0nsu also knows that this is 100% Nether Win because it's the one natural secret in DawN's deck.
But I don't even think there are any disasters. There's no, like, Abomination style effect on 4 mana.
Yeah, no disasters. There is potential taunt to stop, like, just this, which is very close to lethal. But no AoE effects, like you said.
So, again, Varden? Is that where we're
Varden.
at?
Yes, we're at Varden. And so it's Flow, Mini-Mage, Cram Session. Wait, he doesn't even have mana anymore, so what's it now? Like, Generate freezes.
Yeah, there's no Doomsayer to devolve into. Like, there's literally nothing anymore. There is just nothing.
It's Mage. There's got to be something. I just can't think of it at the moment. It's like the Rune Orbs are free now, right? So
yeah,
if you hit both the Ruined Orbs there into like Brain Freezes, maybe. But it is not that time. This time is for Token Druid.
Yeah, we are going at lightning speed. This is even faster than last week, where it was like all warriors and stuff. This week, we're just plowing through it. che0nsu gets the 2-0 win over DawN, and while commiserations do have to go out to DawN because it's another not so great week. He had a very rough start with 2 0-2s, got on the board last week with his Warlock, and at least got on stream this week. But in the end, like you were saying in the start, it's looking like your prediction was correct, that Token Druid is just a great bring if you are expecting a lot of mages. We'll have to see how things shake out once the Druids start lining up against priests a little bit more. I think that's when things could get a little scarier for them. But if they can keep hitting the mages, it just looks like a very strong matchup.
Very true. I have to say, there were quite a number of plays from DawN that I didn't agree with. The biggest one was that use of devolving missiles, not just because it got gibberlings, because even if it had got, like, say, regular 1/1s off of the devolving missiles, he was still pretty much committed to just combusting that turn.
Yeah.
And he would have ended up in a similar board state. I do think that the Mage needs to play a little bit riskier in this matchup, which sometimes it means you lose the turn immediately after, but it often gives you outs to do the most broken things with the spring waters and the flows, which are necessary to win pretty much any matchup.